No raises again this year. Tough times, Fabian said, reclining in his sleek leather chair. If you don't like it, there's the door. His grin spread slowly, like he relished our discomfort. Around the conference table, the energy drained. Novali's jaw clenched. Tanner mumbled something I couldn't quite make out. Alyssa blinked rapidly, tears threatening to fall. I gave a polite nod, but beneath the table, my nails dug into my palm. 5 years. 5 years of the same empty speech. The same excuse-laden monologue. The same disappointment. Fabian adjusted his designer tie. We all have to make sacrifices, he said, like he was doing us some grand favor by letting us stay employed. Penny shifted in her chair, visibly uneasy. Marcelo studied his hands, avoiding eye contact. The air was thick, stifling. But Fabian's gaze lingered, on me. That smug smile didn't budge. Like he fed off this, thrived on breaking our spirits. I kept my expression cool, but something hard and calculating stirred inside me. After the meeting, we shuffled to the break room, dazed and silent. Once Fabian disappeared into his office, Penny finally snapped. 5 years. Not one damn raise. How are we supposed to survive? Marcelo shook his head. He's lying. But what can we even do? Novali slammed her mug onto the counter. My rent just went up again. I'm eating pasta every night. Tanner raked his fingers through his hair. My car's a wreck. I can't even afford to fix it. They sounded broken. Drained. I stayed quiet, listening. While they vented, I kept thinking. And then Fabian walked past the break room, laughing into his phone. Taking the Porsche out this weekend, he said cheerfully. Perfect weather for it. The room fell deathly silent. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I couldn't stop thinking about Fabian's laughter, his flashy watch, that Porsche he loved to flaunt. I pulled up his Instagram. There he was, wearing designer clothes, gold cufflinks catching the light. Hard work pays off. Blessed. Living my best life. My thumb hovered over the screen. Whose hard work, exactly? The comments praised him. Called him inspirational. If only they knew. If only they'd sat through one of those meetings, seen the way he looked at us like we were ants. I took a screenshot and filed it away. I didn't know why yet, but I had a feeling it'd come in handy. Another post, him at a luxury restaurant, champagne in hand. Celebrating another successful quarter. I whispered in the dark, successful for who? The next morning, I walked into the break room to find Zelda and Rowan whispering. They froze when they saw me. Zelda looked guilty. Rowan stirred his coffee too intently. Morning, I said, pouring my own. The silence stretched. We were just talking about the weather, Zelda said. In October. After 3 straight days of rain. Zelda worked in accounting. Rowan was in HR. If anyone knew what the company really spent money on, it was them. What were you really talking about? I asked. Zelda paled. Rowan gave a tiny shake of his head. Nothing important, she said quickly. Rowan fled with his coffee. But I couldn't let it go. Their reaction had told me everything. I didn't need words to know they were hiding something. Tension in team meetings grew. During one, Tanner finally cracked. This is ridiculous, he said, tossing his pen. We're busting our asses bringing in clients and we can't even get cost of living adjustments. The room froze. No one ever confronted Fabian directly. Fabian's smile hardened. Watch your tone if you want to stay employed. The threat was clear. Tanner sat down, seething. Fabian's response was practiced, too smooth, like he expected pushback and had already rehearsed his line. Then he looked at me. You're not stupid, Michaela. You know how this works. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Like we were in on some secret together. That night, I heard someone crying softly in the supply closet. It was Zelda, perched on a box of printer paper, tears streaking her cheeks. Zelda, what's wrong? I asked. She startled, tried to compose herself. I can't tell you, she whispered. You don't want to know. But I did. I needed to. I sat beside her. Zelda, whatever it is, you can trust me. She hesitated, clearly torn. The raises, she finally whispered. They were approved. Every year. The board signed off on them. The budget existed. But Fabian redirected the money. He forged documents, fabricated budget cuts that never happened. The ground shifted under me. He stole our raises? Zelda nodded miserably. He used the money on himself, his car, his vacations, his designer clothes. I process payroll. I've seen it all. But please, you can't tell anyone I told you. I could lose everything. I promised her I wouldn't. But as I walked out of that closet, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I watched my co-workers vent about groceries, eviction notices, broken down cars. They all believed they were powerless. That nothing could change. But something inside me had shifted. Fabian thought he could keep getting away with it, that we were too distracted or too scared to fight back. He had no idea who he just betrayed. My teammates vented, I plotted. Fabian was about to learn that quiet doesn't mean weak. The next morning, I walked in smiling. Morning, Fabian, I said sweetly. He glanced up, surprised. I'd never greeted him before. Good morning, Michaela, he replied. You're in a great mood. Just grateful to be working, I said, full of fake cheer. Especially in these tough times. During the meeting, I laughed at his jokes. I nodded when he blamed the budget again. Absolutely, I said. We're all in this together. My teammates looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Fabian looked relaxed for the first time in weeks. He thought I'd finally submitted. Perfect. After the meeting, Novali pulled me aside. What was that? She asked. Since when do you agree with him? I shrugged. What's the point in fighting? She stared at me, confused. If only she knew. Smile, Michaela. Smile until you have the power to destroy him. I started staying late, not for extra work, but for reconnaissance. Zelda began slipping documents onto my desk, old pay stubs, reports, financial breakdowns. She never said a word, but I found the evidence waiting under stacks of unrelated paperwork. I took photos of everything, bank records, forged budget forms, fake emails. Piece by piece, it all came together. Then, one night, a system alert popped up, unauthorized access detected. My heart pounded. I closed everything instantly and shut down my computer. Had Fabian set up surveillance? The following night, I was deep in files again when I heard footsteps. Fabian walked in, coffee mug in hand. Burning the midnight oil again, Michaela? That's real dedication. I smiled, covering the documents with another folder. Just staying ahead. He leaned on my desk, lowering his voice. Keep this up, and maybe next year I'll take special care of you, personally. My stomach turned. I forced another smile. That's very generous. After he left, my hands shook. Special care, with whose money, Fabian? The team grew more restless by the day. At lunch, they complained non-stop, about bills, landlords, repairs. They were exhausted, hopeless. But not me. Because Fabian had no idea I already had enough to burn his world to the ground. Why don't we all just quit? Navi asked bitterly. Find jobs somewhere else. Alice sighed. No one's hiring in our field right now, especially not around here. We're stuck. We're trapped, and Fabian knows it, Tanner muttered. He's exploiting that. Penny stirred her soup quietly. Maybe things will turn around next year. Marcelo scoffed. They never do. I listened in silence, sipping my coffee, nodding along as my coworkers vented. They had no idea I was already building something behind the scenes, evidence that could flip everything upside down. You're quiet today, Michaela, Navi said, eyeing me. What do you think we should do? I shrugged. There's probably nothing we can do right now. Just keep pushing through and hope things improve. Tanner let out a dry laugh. Hope? That's your plan? What else is there? I replied with a neutral tone. They all looked at me like I'd surrendered, like I was just another beaten-down employee accepting Fabian's crumbs. But if they could have heard what was going through my head, they'd understand. They'd thank me, when it was all over. Fabian had gotten even more brazen. During one lunch break, he was proudly flashing pictures on his phone for everyone to see. Just closed on a beach house, he announced with a wide grin. Should be ready by summer. Across the room, I watched him swipe through pictures of an oceanside property that clearly cost a fortune. Tanner gave him a hard glare. Must be nice, while we're barely scraping by. Fabian smirked. Don't hate me because I work hard and win. The arrogance was staggering. He was buying a beach house with the same money he told us didn't exist, and then having the audacity to preach about hustle. As he entertained his little audience, I quietly snapped a photo of his open laptop. On the screen? An expense report with the line, executive bonus, Q3 incentive. The very same quarter he claimed we couldn't afford raises. Another file added to my collection. Everything, his car, his wardrobe, his 5-star dinners, had been funded by our stolen wages. And he didn't even realize I was documenting it all. It was time to raise my profile with the board. I stepped up and volunteered to lead our biggest marketing initiative, without Fabian's oversight. I worked late, I worked weekends. I poured every ounce of energy I had into that campaign. When the results came in, they shattered records. We exceeded our goals by 40%, attracted major clients, and generated more revenue in one quarter than we usually did in half a year. The board took notice. They invited me to present in person. You exceeded every expectation, the chairman told me. I smiled modestly. Thank you. I had an excellent team behind me. Fabian sat at the far end of the table, trying to smile, but the muscle in his jaw twitched. He hadn't expected me to thrive without him. You deserve a serious raise, another board member said. I'd been waiting for that. Before I could reply, Fabian cut in. I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, the budget remains tight. We're still recovering from last year's setbacks. I nodded politely, playing along, but mentally I was filing every word away. After that, Fabian kept a closer eye on me. You've been awfully reserved lately, Michaela, he said one afternoon, appearing unexpectedly at my desk. Anything I should know? I looked up with a calm smile. Just staying focused, trying to model your leadership and commitment. He searched my expression, clearly looking for signs of rebellion. Right. Keep it up. But I could sense the shift. He was watching me constantly. Every time he blamed the budget in meetings, he looked at me for a reaction. I gave him none. Everything okay, Fabian? I asked after one tense meeting. You seem a little stressed. He chuckled awkwardly. Just the usual pressure. Nothing to worry about. But his anxiety was showing, and that was exactly what I wanted. Nervous people slip up. I was counting on it. During our next team meeting, I decided to nudge him. He was reciting the same tired script about financial strain when I politely raised my hand. Quick question, if I may, I said. Are raises still completely frozen? Just wondering since we've increased revenue by about 30% this quarter. Dead silence. My coworkers turned toward me, stunned. I never asked questions like that. Fabian's jaw tensed. That's a charming question, Michaela, but payroll and revenue are separate matters. Of course, I said sweetly. Just curious about the timeline. Many of us have gone years without adjustments. Zelda stared at the table. Fabian forced a chuckle. Stay focused on your duties. Compensation is reviewed when appropriate. I nodded like his answer satisfied me. But everyone felt it, that shift in the air. Tanner leaned over after the meeting. What was that? Just asking a question, I replied. But it wasn't just a question. It was the first crack in the dam. My next opportunity came at another board meeting. I was there to present follow-up campaign metrics and outline strategic proposals. Fabian looked calm, probably assuming this would be routine. Everything started as expected. I walked through results, highlighted key growth, then smoothly pivoted. Before we wrap, I had a small clarification, I said. Are company-wide salary freezes still in effect? I've been reviewing payroll records, and I noticed a few discrepancies between the compensation budgets the board approved and the actual employee disbursements. The room went still. Fabian's complexion drained. What discrepancies? Asked a board member. I feigned confusion. Oh, just something I came across while preparing budget forecasts. I assumed it was a minor oversight. Fabian interjected quickly. She's mistaken. Probably misread a few reports. There's no issue. Too late. He'd already shown his hand. I'd like to see those reports, the chairman said. This is highly unorthodox, Fabian said, his voice rising. Financial matters. Let her finish, another board member cut in. I blinked innocently. I don't want to cause trouble. I just noticed our department had raises approved 5 years in a row, but none of us actually received them. You could hear a pin drop. Fabian was sweating, his shirt damp with panic. Clearly a misunderstanding, he said. The financial constraints were real. Were they? The chairman asked, flipping through his notes. Because I distinctly remember approving those raises. Another board member was already typing on their phone. We'll need a full payroll audit, immediately. Fabian kept glancing at me, trying to assess how much I knew. The truth? I knew everything. And now, so did the board. The next morning, HR summoned me. Fabian was already seated with the HR director, both of them wearing serious expressions. Michaela, the director began, there are concerns regarding unauthorized access to confidential data. Someone's been accessing payroll files, Fabian added. Without approval. I kept my expression composed and professional. That sounds serious. Fabian leaned forward. We found logs indicating unusual access to our payroll systems, access tied directly to your login times and locations. I nodded, keeping my voice even. I see. And what are you implying exactly? We're not accusing you of anything, the HR director said with measured caution. We're simply trying to understand how sensitive payroll data may have been accessed. I calmly reached into my folder and placed a tidy stack of papers on the table. There may be some misunderstanding, I said politely. I've only ever accessed systems relevant to my role. In fact, I've kept careful records. The stack I slid across contained every document I had quietly photographed, each with detailed notes explaining when and how I obtained them. The HR director's eyebrows lifted as she flipped through the pages. "Where did you get all this?" she asked, her voice low. I gave her a polite smile. "Shouldn't all of this already be in your system files?" That afternoon, Tanner darted over to my desk, wide-eyed. "You're not going to believe this," he whispered urgently. "What happened?" I was walking past Fabian's office. He was on a call, totally losing it. Something about covering his tracks and making problems disappear. He sounded frantic. I suppressed a smile, keeping my face neutral. "That's odd." "Odd?" "Michaela," he was panicking. What Tanner didn't know was that I already had everything I needed. Zelda had given me a secret recording months ago, Fabian drunkenly bragging to a friend about how he'd bought a Porsche using the extra cash from raises he'd siphoned away. He even mocked how clueless his team was. I had been waiting for the right moment to use it. "Should we report this?" Tanner asked. "I'm sure it's nothing," I said calmly, though my phone had just buzzed. A text from the HR director: "Emergency meeting with Fabian scheduled for tomorrow. Board will be present." The trap was set. Fabian didn't know it yet, but his unraveling was about to begin. The next morning, we gathered in the large conference room. The board members were all present. Fabian sat at one end with his lawyer, who looked confident but on edge. I was invited to speak first. I took my time, methodically presenting each piece of evidence: salary increases that had been approved but mysteriously never applied, altered budget files with forged signatures, personal expenses disguised as departmental costs, and bank records showing suspicious deposits into Fabian's account. When I finished, silence filled the room. "These are serious accusations," the board chairman said, turning to Fabian. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Fabian sat taller, pasting on a look of righteous indignation. "I categorically deny all of it. These documents are being misrepresented or misunderstood." "What about the bank deposits?" another board member asked, gesturing to the financial documents. "Personal bonuses and investment returns," Fabian answered smoothly. "All properly documented and legal." Even now, he kept lying. So I pulled out one last sheet from my briefcase, the forged pay slips that Zelda had uncovered. Side by side with the originals, they exposed everything: his forged signature, the real raise amounts, and how he had intercepted them. I said nothing as I handed them over. Fabian's lawyer took one look and whispered, "We're finished." Within the hour, everyone was called to the main conference room. The board chairman stood before the staff, face somber. "After a thorough investigation, we've uncovered major financial misconduct in this department," he announced. Around me, teammates exchanged confused glances. Effective immediately, Fabian West has been terminated for fraud, theft, and breach of fiduciary duty. Gasps and murmurs erupted around the room. Fabian was escorted in by security, red-faced and furious. As he passed my desk, he leaned in and hissed, "You'll regret this, Michaela. You don't know what you've done." I didn't blink. "I know exactly what I've done," I said softly. Security pulled him away before he could say more. Through the window, I saw his beloved Porsche being repossessed in the parking lot, purchased with the money he stole from us. Employees had gathered to watch. Poetic justice. After he was gone, my teammates swarmed my desk. "What just happened?" Penny asked, stunned. "You knew all along?" Tanner said. Nova grabbed my arm. "That was you? You exposed him?" I gave a quiet smile. I didn't need to explain everything. He was stealing from us. All those missing raises? He pocketed them. Elisa's eyes filled with tears. All this time we thought the company just couldn't afford it. Marcelo shook his head. 5 years, 5 years of stress and cuts while he lived like royalty. Just then, the HR director appeared. "Michaela, the board would like a word with you." I followed her back to the conference room, under the watchful eyes of my team. "First," the chairman said, "we want to commend your courage and thoroughness. You protected this company from ongoing harm." I nodded. "Second," he continued, "we'd like to offer you Fabian's former position, department manager. Along with full retroactive pay for all the raises you missed." The room was still. Penny peeked in. "What are you going to do?" she whispered. I walked to Fabian's vacant office and sat in his chair. It was still warm. His luxury mug half full. His smug motivational posters about leadership still on the walls. I opened a drawer, pulled out a sheet of company letterhead, and began to write. Outside, my teammates watched as I penned my decision. When I was done, I folded the paper and placed it in the center of the desk, my resignation. Zelda appeared in the doorway, wide-eyed. "You're leaving?" I stood, brushing off my skirt. "I got everyone their justice, their back pay. But I can't stay." "Why not?" I thought for a second. "Because this place is tainted now. Staying would mean seeing how they let him get away with it for years." She hugged me tightly. "You saved us." I shook my head gently. "I saved myself. You all just happened to benefit." I boxed up my few belongings and headed toward the exit. My teammates lined the hall. Some looked confused. Others grateful. A few sad. But I felt lighter with every step. The elevator doors shut behind me, and I didn't look back. 6 months later, I sat in a corner office on the 30th floor, overlooking the city. Director of Strategy at Morrison & Associates, a company that believed in integrity, transparency, and fair pay. I made double what I used to. My boss respected me. My coworkers appreciated me. Most of all, I respected myself. A text buzzed on my phone. "Zelda, saw your promotion in the Business Journal. So proud of you." I smiled and set the phone down. From my window, I could see my old building, my former team, now thriving under better leadership. They had stayed to rebuild. I had chosen to move forward. Both choices were valid. I sipped my coffee and watched the city below, alive with possibility. They say the best revenge is living well. But I learned something deeper. The best revenge isn't anger or revenge itself, it's knowing your worth and walking away from anyone who tries to take it from you. And that lesson was more valuable than any raise they could have offered.